everybody. Welcome back to All Things Pink. I am your host, Julie Majors, and I have a very special guest with me today as part of our Celebrating Women in series. Today, we are celebrating women in law with my really good friend, Mary Vargas, who is a civil rights attorney. I'm so excited to have you here today with us to talk about all things you.
Thank you. I mean, it's a great opportunity. You get to talk about yourself on a Monday. That's awesome.
Well, absolutely. So let us know a little bit about who you are, what you do.
I'm a disability rights attorney. I represent people with disabilities in discrimination cases. I do what's called impact litigation, which means we try to select cases that if we win, we will not only help the person we represent, but we will help other people who are similarly situated. And so we do that kind of work in federal courts, primarily in federal courts all over the country, even though I live and work most of the time in Frederick County.
What made you decide to do this kind of work?
So I actually was studying to be a teacher. I was in a deaf education program, and I was student teaching at state schools for the deaf in New Jersey and Delaware, and became very frustrated with the low expectations that were in the classrooms where I was. And it didn't feel like there was a lot of future being anticipated for these kids. And, that's an overgeneralization. That's not true of every school for the deaf. It's not true of every teacher. But that's the classrooms I was in. That's what it was like, paired with the fact that these were environments where kids were using American Sign Language. And I knew American Sign Language, but I wasn't fluent. And it felt like I was complicit in the problem if I was not teaching a child their first language. If I was teaching a child their first language as somebody who wasn't fluent. So right around the time I was having all those misgivings about being part of that system and feeling like I wouldn't be good at keeping my mouth shut about it, I received a Truman Fellowship, which when President Harry Truman died, rather than setting up a stone memorial for him, they decided to set up a living memorial, which is a scholarship fund to fund students who want to go into public interest work. Nice. And it's for their graduate work. So I received that fellowship, which gave me an opportunity to have funding to go to law school, but also gave me a lot of opportunities to look at public policy and think about how I might address some of the things that they didn't think I was going to be good about being silent about in the school system.
Interesting. What do you think? And I think that you're kind of like an advocate in a lot of ways, and I know we've talked about that, and I've been an advocate for many, many years, and I think that that's really important. It's a character that you have to not want to be silent, and you just can't. It's a piece of being able to advocate for people.
It's partly that, and it's there's some selfish in it. For me, I don't think I could go to work every day. I think I would be miserable if I went to work every day and didn't feel like I was fighting for something.
Yeah.
I like that. Yes. I like that purpose. I like the challenge. I like the feeling of giving somebody voice who has no voice at all. To me, that feels good. Like I'm getting something from that. So.
I say the same thing. Like that's a gift back to me when we have the ability or the capacity to do that, and it fulfills our purpose as much as it fulfills their purpose.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What would you say is the hardest part of your job?
There's a lot of pressure in it because of that exact issue. I think it would be, in some sense, not at all fulfilling, but much easier to go to a job where I didn't feel like the stakes were incredibly high in somebody else's life. And it's not my life, it's somebody else's life that I have the power to create access or not. And one of the first case that I ever took to a jury trial, I was representing a deaf medical student who was denied accommodations, captioning, and interpreters in medical school. And going into trial with zero trial experience in a federal court in Nebraska, I was holding this person's ability to be a doctor, their future, their career in my hands. And if I screwed it up, that was the trajectory of their life that would be altered by that.
Yes.
And I felt very not up to that challenge and very responsible that if I lost, I mean, that's the problem with caring, right? If you care, that makes the work really important. But if you care and you lose, that's a personal loss.
Yes. And I say that all the time. A lot of our attorneys, whether it's criminal defense or civil rights of any kind, it's not their life. And that's, I think, sometimes the difference between a good one and a not so good attorney,
right,
is that the good ones feel that.
Mm-hmm.
They know that exists,
Right.
that, hey, and they
And it
pay
motivates them.
It does. It motivates. It also pays you. I know working in prisoners' rights, when you work in prisoners' rights, you feel that same thing. Like when there's people dying and you're like, and they're calling you and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? And it's that pressure of,
right,
it's their life. I have to do something,
right.
Win or lose.
And far less important, but also a factor in civil rights litigation, is the fact that the vast majority of our clients can't pay us. They don't pay us. And the only way we get paid, which is what allows us to continue to do the work, is if we win.
Yeah.
So we have to win, and then we have to convince the judge that we should get paid. And so that doesn't always happen. And it's an added pressure of
course.
Obviously everybody needs to pay their bills, but it's also, you can't keep doing the work if you can't get paid for it. At some point
yes, like something has to give after that. And I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Right.
I don't think they understand how civil cases differ, from criminal,
Mm-hmm.
and why sometimes it's so hard. People say, oh, well, you can just do them. Just do them. Like, that's not exactly how that works.
No.
Even when people have done something wrong, you can't necessarily just sue them for all the wrongdoing on like a civil
right. And even if you can, it's incredibly expensive. It takes a really long time, and you could win.
Yes.
And you could still not get justice. And you could win and get justice and still not get paid. So there's a lot of many different levels of things at stake.
Yeah, and it's really important. Yes, it's really important that people understand that, because, even as an advocate, I hear that all the time. Well, how come we can't sue it, and why is this happening? And I'm like, and I get to be the bearer of the bad news that I wish I could.
Right. What's happened to you is incredibly wrong, and there is nothing I can do about it. Yeah, it's a really hard conversation to have. And
it takes somebody really special to do that. So just so you know, your job is very much appreciated, because it's, and I appreciate it, and I can respect it. What do you think the challenge is being a woman in this field versus being a man in this field? Or do challenges exist? It's so weird that I'm saying this. It's 2025, people. Right. And I'm going to ask this question. Right. What do you think in your field specifically? What are those challenges? So in certain areas of being a lawyer, I think the experience is different than it is in litigation in federal court, where it primarily, in my work, has still been men on the other side. And I think there's only been twice in my entire career, which is like 26 years, when there's been a moment where I looked around the room and there was a woman in each role. Like, I literally can picture the case and where I was sitting, because there was a moment of like, there's a woman mediator, and there's a woman defense attorney, and there's me. Get out, and really? And it's still very notable. I'd say in the past 3 to 5 years, there's been more women defense attorneys, but most of my career, I had been the only woman in the room. In 2025, this is where we are. That's insane to me. Do you have any thoughts on maybe like why that is?
Litigation is time consuming and pressure filled, and I think it's hard to have kids and be a litigator. And I think there are a lot of other reasons.
Probably a lot of
well
facets to that.
But I think that is probably one of the primary drivers of why that is. And the fact, there are not as many women who are judges, and there are not as many women who are mediators, that's for systemic reasons. But in terms of why still each role is often a man, except for me, I think a lot of it is because the litigation schedule and cadence, given the fact that so many women are still the primary caretaker for their children, I think is a challenge.
What do you think benefits you? So there's oftentimes, even though like I can honestly say as an advocate, we're designed to be more nurturing. If you want to go to like the stereotypical, design of people, I'm not much of a science person, but generally speaking, we are. I think that empathetic nature and that, wanting to care and getting the whole side of it where it's that pressure of purpose. We give a crap about, the situation and the people. And do you think that is a benefit?
Absolutely. I think it's a huge benefit, and in lots of different ways. I think clients tell me things because I'm willing to have conversations with them that are, I don't care about only their legal problem. I need to understand how their life impacts
the dynamic.
Sometimes, I feel a little bit mom with some of my younger clients who are, looking at, I represent a lot of medical students. I get a little mom with them.
Yeah.
But I think that's a benefit because hopefully they trust me enough to tell me things that some clients might think didn't matter, but they do. They allow me to tell their story in a way that's more complete. I think it helps in terms of depositions and the other side. I think it helps in court with the other side because I think often there are assumptions based on the way I look of what I'm going to be like, and they don't see me coming. And so sometimes it will take people by surprise in a way that I get information that might not, I think, have been.
It's powerful.
It is. It's a superpower.
Yeah.
And there was a case early on in my career where I was in mediation and I was representing somebody who had a very long criminal record who was denied interpreters in a medical situation. And their parents, they were on the younger side, an adult, but on the younger side. And their parents, they were deaf. Their parents were hearing. Their parents came to the mediation and I was doing my job. And at some point we took a break and, I sign with my clients and the parents forgot, I think, that I was hearing and that I could hear what they were saying. And I was interacting with my client. And I heard one of them said, "Oh, she's a little thing." And that was the mom.
Yeah.
And the dad said, "Yeah, a little like a piranha." And so, 26 years later, the joke is still like people call me the piranha because little, but you don't necessarily see it coming and you don't expect it. And so sometimes you get more truth that way.
Sometimes
so I think it is a benefit.
And I think don't worry, I get the same thing. Being like the little advocate, some people are very surprised about what I can do, which, sometimes can be an insult, but a lot of times it's a superpower.
Power can look different. People have assumptions about what power looks like, and it's often wrong.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's very powerful to be able to control your emotions and to be able to kind of control a situation that way, no matter how mad we are. I think there's power in that, especially in when you're talking about legal issues or advocacy, you need to keep that.
Well, I'm laughing because my law partner would absolutely say you need to control your emotions a little bit more. And we have running jokes where we went into a hearing in the last few weeks where I was outraged and felt there was a lot at stake. And I felt things that were really offensive were being said out loud. And my law partner said, I will give you gummy bears if you frame yourself in for this hearing.
I don't think they're expecting that much emotion to come out of somebody so tiny. But I think it's scarier.
Well, and like there's power in that too. The cases where I think I do a better job arguing is when I can tell the story of the human beings involved. When it's just about like constitutional law, nobody wants to hear that.
No,
it's not interesting.
No, it's not, because because what you're doing is you're putting a face to there's a human behind that, and I love that. And we always did the same thing whenever I was helping an attorney prepare a case about like a certain population of people. I mean, it's people that have that are incarcerated, so like it's not the super
they have real
popular
lives and families.
They're
people
real
people and people who love them.
Yeah, so you have
there's a story there.
Absolutely, each one of them has a story, and so it's really important that whether it's a judge or a jury or whatever, that they understand that this is the gray area,
right?
It's not just one way or the other, and all the decisions that are being made in those cases are directly affecting someone, that typically doesn't even have a voice. Right. So I think that's great. What is your feeling? And I've always been in kind of an independent professional working woman.
Right.
And I'm very proud of that. I love that. It is not easy to do. And there's certain things that I think are so much more difficult than people want to shine that light on. And one of them is being a mom.
Yeah.
Or, especially if you're a single mom, especially if at any point where you are literally trying to build your career or sustain your career.
Right.
And how do you, what are your thoughts on like the challenges of doing this work, having this type of profession, and being a mom?
I think I'm really privileged. I am a single mom. I have 3 kids, but I'm able to work from home and I'm my own boss. And that makes it completely different from the vast majority of everybody else, because ultimately I have a law partner who understands the realities of my life.
Nice.
And I can schedule around them. So, I'm lucky that I'm most of the time not in a situation where I have to go somewhere and I have a sick kid, and most of the time I can be a mom while being a lawyer without having to choose one over the other. With that said, I think there's an enormous toll to that in terms of, I'm one of those people who has 30 tabs open on my laptop.
Me too.
And everyone gives me a hard time for it. Like, my God, shut some of those. Like, I'm really using that. But my brain is like that. That's my brain.
All the balls are always in the air.
All the balls are in the air.
Yeah.
And I am going to drop some of them. I've been making dinner while I'm on the phone negotiating with the Department of Justice, and I have burned the crap out of the dinner because you can't. This idea that you can do everything is completely bogus. You can, but there are consequences, there are tolls, and you're going to drop balls and you're going to burn things.
Yes, you are absolutely going to drop those balls.
Yeah.
Sometimes on your own foot.
Sometimes spectacular.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think as I've gotten older, I can accept that.
Yes.
Way more than when I was younger in this.
Right. I mean, I think that's like kind of the gift of being this age is that, when I was younger, I thought everything had to be perfect. You get one chance, you have to do everything right. You have to, and I'm much more willing to fail because I have to be and because I do.
Yeah, I think I started accepting it much, longer ago than I think, because I was always okay with not being the PTA mom.
Oh no, see, I was not okay. I was making cupcakes with.
Oh my God. No, I was fine with it. I was
doing all the things.
I was like, no, I work and I work many jobs, and I was totally okay coming in hot. Like my kids barely get there by the bell, but they have nice clothes. They've been fed.
And I think they learn something from it. I mean, I think the lesson in that is seeing a mom who's human.
Yeah.
And who's
totally okay.
Doing a lot.
I try to do those things. Yeah, I try to do those things and I'm a great baker. I love to bake. But I knew that if I put one more thing on my plate, that it wasn't just going to be a couple balls.
They were all going to
They're all
going to go.
All is coming down. So I was like, okay, I'm going to forego, laundry's done.
Right.
It's just sometimes it never leaves the basket. Right. I'm like, I got to fold it, right? I could have accepted that that's just what it is.
Right. And you have to kind of laugh.
I do.
I mean, I had very early on when I started my firm and I was working from home and my kids were pretty young and I was working on that case that was going to jury trial for the first time. I remember I was having this really important conference and back then I used to try really hard to be professional all the time for people not to know I had kids and a life and whatever. And
exactly.
And I had set my kids with a TV show to watch and they had snacks and I did everything to set it up so it would look like I was working in a vacuum. And no sooner than I got on the phone call and my oldest, who was probably 7 at the time, showed up at my glass office doors with a sign that he held up against the window that said, "I clogged the toilet and it's overflowing." What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly.
And now I think I didn't have that all figured out like I think you did. It took me a really long time.
Yeah,
and now
it's hard.
I will say, the toilet's overflowing. I'm gonna
excuse me, I'm gonna have to, or the dogs are barking, and you're like,
my dogs are.
Hey, you know what? I think COVID helped us with this.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. Because now
it's acceptable. Sense, awful in every other sense.
Yes, and the one way is that those of us who were doing that. Yeah,
right.
And it's okay if that happens during your meeting.
Right. My firm was always virtual back before it was cool. But the problem was I used to have to pretend like I was sitting in an office and there couldn't be any noise, any distractions, or toilets flushing or overflowing. Now everybody's used to, my dogs will get they stare at the camera during deposition. Yeah. And is it professional? Maybe not. But it's more accepted.
But I think that it's also a case where even if it's not about that, I think a lot of people do need to understand how hard it is to balance all of those things and to be, like you're talking about, here I am trying to feed my kids and I have a big deposition. Right. It doesn't end.
Right. Leaving at 5 in the field. And I think that's moms being exhausted every night.
Yeah.
There's nothing left.
Yes.
Because you're doing so many things at once and the things you're not doing, they're still in your brain.
They are still in your brain.
You're still thinking, I've got to go pick the prescription up. And I have to
and I have lists on my phone that are a mile long because it never fully ever gets done. And I'm a lot more okay with that now because I realized, and I was a single mom, I had to do it all by myself. And I'm and do all, so when everyone was that doesn't do it, complains, I kind of get that look, I'd love to switch places with you for 5 minutes and you tell me if this is easy. Right. I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but
it's hard.
It is really very, very hard.
Demanding and physically demanding and
it's just, but I would not have it any other way. And the reason I would not have it any other way is because this fulfills me as a person. And I couldn't see myself not having the job that I have or not having that independent nature to go do these things and to create these things and to help people. That's my way of doing it. And like you said, it
teaches your kids something, right? I think it used to be that we thought we had to teach our kids that we were going to make Jell-O and cookies with them every afternoon. And that was being a good mom. And that's definitely shifted in my brain where, my kids 2 of them are in college now. One of them is a senior in high school. And I know they're proud of the work I do. I know they think it's important. And, do they wish maybe I wasn't in deposition until 8:00 on a certain day? Of course. But I think they see that I have a career that fulfills me. And I think they see that it's possible to do the same. And it teaches them something valuable.
I think so, too. It is possible. What would you say to a younger set of women that want to pursue something in the legal field, whether it's an attorney of any kind, but what advice would you give?
Right. So a couple of things. I think it's really important to think about what you want long term and to set up your life in a way that you can have that. choose what kind of law you practice, choose what kind of income you have. You know, a lot of young lawyers go to work for big firms where they make big salaries, and that's kind of a trap, because once you do that, you buy a car based on that, and you buy a house based on that, and then you're trapped into that income and you can't leave. So sort of choosing what you really want your life to be like, and not necessarily sacrificing that in the short term, because you may actually be sacrificing that more long term. Setting boundaries for yourself, that it's okay to set boundaries and not be available to clients at 2 a.m. and to, you know, turn off your email. And I'm saying all these things, which I'm terrible at, but, you know, I'm still trying to learn also. And this is sort of like the intersection of the professional and the personal, having the financial security that should you need to be on your own, you are able to do that. And again, like I'm saying this from a place of privilege. I'm an attorney. I have a degree that I can use to make income. But having been in really tough personal situations, having being set up financially in a way that you can leave home if you need to is critically important.
I think so. I think that goes not just in your field, but just in general. It's your mom instinct like kicking in.
Yeah.
Is there any advice you would say specifically in the civil field for them, as like what they might encounter? You know, which is, you know,
I had a defense attorney who shall remain nameless, who is very well respected, not in the state of Maryland, who, you know, we had a Zoom meet and confer. A meet and confer is where there's a disagreement between the two sides, and before you go to the judge about it, you're supposed to sit down like adults and have a conversation.
Oh, boy.
We had by this point learned that I should not have meet and confers with this person alone, because their behavior was somewhat unhinged and inappropriate.
Nice.
So we built into that, there's going to always be a witness with me. So it's not just me, in case things go south. And one of these meet and confers, I remember he appeared with only half of his shirt on. He was, you know, I was in a suit on Zoom.
What?
And he was in a dress shirt that was open all the way down to his belly button and no undershirt under it.
Oh my!
Trying to have a conversation about discovery or whatever, you know, like mature stuff.
Oh my!
He's sitting there, and like, what was the goal there? Was it to intimidate me? Was it? I don't know what it was.
Wow!
But that kind of stuff, I think, is a lot harder when you're young. When you're a young woman.
Oh yeah.
When you're later in your career and you have
like, you don't care anymore. You're like, whatever.
Right. And you know, law, after all these years, crazy things are still happening. You know, like there's
That's
still something new
to me.
I didn't expect. I knew something might happen, but that wasn't what I expected.
Oh my gosh, that's just like so far over the top.
Right.
Like, why?
Boys behaving badly, it definitely still happens. And, you know, the mansplaining when you have an argument, and you get a different response sometimes as a woman than a male attorney would. And and it takes a deep breath. And, you know, I'm at the point in my career where, you know, in the last year, somebody did that to me over the phone, and I said, "Do you mansplain your wife like that?" And you know, that's not something you can do when you're 24.
I know. Like, it does change a little bit.
In my 50s, yeah, you can say that.
Yeah. Who would you say are like your top 3 mentors? And it doesn't have to be somebody that you met. It can be any, like, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is one of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Really all the time.
Good choice.
All the time.
Good choice.
Love her. So it doesn't have to be someone you met. They don't have to be alive.
So the first one would definitely be someone I met. That's when I was in law school, I got a fellowship to work at the National Association of the Deaf Law Center after law school. And my boss there is still in my life all these years later. And I remember my interview with him crystal clear when I was talking about, you know, I want to do deaf education. I want to help kids in school. And he looked at me and said, "You don't want to do that." He's like, you can have way more impact if you do disability discrimination work because it's more,
right.
It doesn't impact one person. And, it's important to impact one person. But he was saying you can impact a lot of people with one case. And he convinced me that was the right thing for me. And he was right. And, he taught me to celebrate the wins. When we win something, he's like, you don't win that often. You got to get ice cream. And just those the little human things about how to live your life while being a professional. He definitely taught me those things. And I feel very lucky to have had him as
absolutely
all these years. I'd say Harry Truman because his foundation essentially paid for me to do the work that I do.
Wow.
And gave me a lot of opportunities to experience policy work and whatever. It wasn't just the money. So those are probably the two that I would.
Good choices. Very good choices, I think. And Mary, it has been so awesome to have you on our show, talking about your profession, women in law. I have a lot of respect for it. I work very closely with, the legal world. Sometimes not so much fun.
A lot of people don't like lawyers. I mean, that's the reality. Most people don't like lawyers, and
I think it's great
for that.
And I'm just gonna say, I met this lovely lady at a music event, I'll call it. But we're all out, never met her before, and Amy, who's been on the show, says to me, "I have someone I want you to meet. Like, she's an attorney and she does civil rights." And all of a sudden, I'm just like, I didn't even care that we were there. I was like, oh my God, I want to meet her. Well, it does, because I'm like, it's like someone like me.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And, Corey's totally like, oh God, the night is over. She's done. She's going to be talking about advocacy for the next 3 hours. And I bombarded you, and you're talking about a case that you're working on. It was prisoner rights based. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Right. Nobody understands me over here. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And, it's like-mindedness, and it was just, experiences are the same, and it's always so much fun when you get to kind of meet somebody that's in a really hard field.
Well, my favorite thing about people is when they're passionate about something. I don't care what it is. They could, I have a kid who's passionate about coffee, and it rubs off on you. I got a new espresso machine over the weekend.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I love that in people. And I think that was why I connected with you, because you had this passion for the work that you
And I was just going to slam in, and I was like, hey.
I totally relate to that. Yeah. And I love seeing that in other people, even if, we happen to have some things in common in terms of what we're passionate about. But even if somebody's not, passionate about the same thing, seeing somebody who really cares about what they do, for me, is that
I think is really awesome and empowering. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So thank you again for coming on the show. Thank you guys for joining us. As always, we post podcasts weekly. You can listen on Apple and Spotify. We want to hear from you. Please send us any feedback that you want to about any of our episodes. And I really hope that Mary comes on the show again. We have a lot to talk about. Thank you to the agency and Frederick for always allowing us to invade your space. Please watch us on our YouTube channel. And if you do, like and subscribe to the channel. That helps us out a lot. We have a website, allgreatthings.life, not org or com. And we also have other wellness programming. You can see all of our episodes there. So please check that out. Thank you again. And I cannot wait to see you guys on the next episode of All Things Pink. You gotta get out there and explore.